Hello everybody and welcome to this first ever online Thésée meeting. It is sort of a test. We don't know yet if anybody's interested, we don't know if it's going to work, but we'll find out together, I suppose. So there are 4 different moments, as you have understood already, I think. There is this introduction that we'll put online always the evening before. Then in the morning you can meet in small groups. Then at 3 o'clock there's this moment of feedback, of asking questions to Brother Timothy who does the Bible introduction. And then at 5 o'clock there's a workshop. So this is both for Saturday and for Sunday. And of course Sunday, since it's a Sunday, we invite you all very much to participate, if possible, in the celebration of your local church. So this is for everybody who registered for the meeting. For everybody else, either because you did not register or because you're under 18 or over 35, you can watch the Bible introduction. You can also watch this moment of feedback with the brother, even though you cannot ask questions. And as well, you can watch the workshop in the afternoon. And all of this on our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
A reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 7, verses 37 to 53. On the last day of the festival, the great day, while Jesus was standing there, he cried out, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me, and let the one who believes in me drink. As the scripture has said, out of the believer's heart shall flow rivers of living water." Now he said this about the Spirit, which believers in him were to receive, for as yet there was no Spirit, because Jesus was not yet glorified. When they heard these words, some in the crowd said, "This is really the prophet." Others said, "This is the Messiah." But some asked, "Surely the Messiah does not come from Galilee, does he? Has not the scripture said that the Messiah is descended from David and comes from Bethlehem, the village where David lived?" So there was a division in the crowd because of him. Some of them wanted to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him. Then the temple police went back to the chief priests and Pharisees, who asked them, "Why did you not arrest him?" The police answered, "Never has anyone spoken like this." Then the Pharisees replied, "Surely you have not been deceived too, have you? Has any one of the authorities or of the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd, which does not know the law, they are accursed." Nicodemus, who had gone to Jesus before, and who was one of them, asked, Our law does not judge people without first giving them a hearing to find out what they are doing, does it?" They replied, "Surely you are not also from Galilee, are you? Search, and you will see that no prophet is to arise from Galilee." Then each of them went home.
Let anyone who is thirsty come, and whoever believes in me will drink. This statement pronounced by Jesus stands out from the beginning of today's text. What is our thirst? The current situation is different according to countries and different regions on the globe. While some countries are still experiencing or just starting to experience the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, others are in the process of loosening restrictions, trying to organize a new normality, often after several weeks of lockdown. Our experience is also marked by the different circumstances of our personal lives and by our individual temperament. In consequence, there's an infinite number of answers to the question, what is our thirst? Some of us are looking for safety and stability for ourselves and for our loved ones. Others would like to explore new paths and set out on new adventures. Some cannot wait to meet as many people as possible, whereas others might prefer to preserve some of the solitude discovered during the lockdown. Our thirst is linked to what is truly missing in our lives. Some were missing many things or are still missing things due to the restrictions. Others found out what they were lacking before. Independently of all these differences, Jesus cries out, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me." And he promises that whoever believes in him will drink. Some will read that as a condition. You need to believe in order to be able to drink. Some will read it as equivalent. Believing and drinking means turning with our desire toward Jesus. Are we supposed to understand that Jesus fulfills all of our needs? Or are our desires somewhat modified, transformed by our encounter with Jesus? Should we even aspire to having our thirst quenched? Or is it our thirst that makes us who we are? In any case, Jesus promises a fullness of life. He presents himself as the one from whose side will flow rivers of living water. The author of the text then defines this fullness of life as the Spirit. But the text had started with Jesus' invitation to anybody, no matter what people's thirst might be. The author adds that the Spirit had not yet been given because Jesus had not yet been glorified, as he puts it. We can see right afterwards in the text that somehow the time was not yet right. There are plenty of people exchanging opinions about Jesus. Some are dismissive. They already know everything they need to know. Others seem genuinely impressed. Nobody has ever spoken like that before, they say. But we do not see anybody who really turns towards Jesus with his or her own thirst, with the knowledge that something is missing in their lives and with the desire to discover something new. In the end of the text, each one of them went home. Maybe it is Jesus whom we could see as an example of somebody following his own thirst, somebody in touch with what he is missing, and using that as a means of relating to others and relating to God. Chapter 4 of John's Gospel shows us Jesus as unafraid of asking a drink of water to a Samaritan woman with whom supposedly he shouldn't have had any contact. He asks for a drink, and she discovers her thirst. It's in this conversation that Jesus presents himself for the first time as capable of giving living water. Maybe in this moment, he came to a new understanding of himself through this encounter. A new understanding that prepared this invitation, "Let anyone who's thirsty come to me." In John's Gospel, the words, "I am thirsty," are also among the very last words that Jesus pronounces before he dies on the cross. Maybe that is also a way of reading the story of Jesus' life, that he was unafraid of his own thirst, and that it became for him the place from which he turned to God again and again. Just as the psalmists of the past had prayed, "Out of the depths I cried to you, and my soul thirsts for the living God." It would then be through his thirst that Jesus opened up a path. And it is this path, consecrated by the gift of his life, that he shares with us. Could the gift of the Spirit that we celebrate at Pentecost mean something like that? In Tizé, there's a song that we sing in Spanish, and that translates more or less, "In the night we go forward in order to look for the source, and only our thirst illuminates us." In our current situation, whatever our personal desires or worries may be, could these words, together with Jesus' example and Jesus' invitation, shine a light on our path?
So that was the first Bible introduction. If normally you should have received an email where all the explanations are how this will work for the small groups, and also how it works at 3 o'clock and at 5 o'clock for asking questions. So if you're registered for this meeting and you haven't done yet, please check your mailbox at the address that you gave to us to see how this will work for the small groups and how this will work for asking questions later in the day. And then once again, I remind you the program. So this morning you can meet in the small groups, and then at 3 o'clock there is the moment of feedback with Brother Timothy, and at 5 o'clock there is the workshop. Have a very nice day.